Well, just a while ago, you're watching the vetting, appointment committee of Parliament vetting the nominees for the Supreme Court nominated by the President there. But the vetting of Supreme Court judges appointed by President Akufo-Addo is currently underway at the appointment committee of Parliament. Earlier, though, chaos erupted as the minority attempted to halt the vetting of the Supreme Court justice nominees. Justice Sophia Benasco Issa and Professor Richard Frimpong have been answering questions on their eligibility. But even before the process started, questions were raised about the constitutionality of the appointment. Let me take you live now to Parliament for more on this. My colleague Kweku Asante, who's on this beat for us, joins us now. Kweku, tell us what exactly happened at the vetting committee, and what's happening at the vetting committee at the moment. So we'll shortly get Kweku Asante, to tell us more. Kweku, I wanted to understand what is happening at the vetting committee at the moment and bring us up to speed with even what happened before the vetting started.
Well, it's been chaotic scenes, literally chaos, a lot of chaos at the appointment committee today. The sitting was expected to start at 10. It did start around that time, but not up until about 2 p.m. before the real vetting did start, because the minority did have some preliminary objections. They were raising concerns that it appears the president is parting the court and that the president is not respecting the constitution when it comes to how exactly he could appoint new presidents to the court. So they raised preliminary objections and even moved a motion demanding a vote on the committee, and something the chairperson of the committee was not going to do. There was a lot of back and forth. In fact, at some point, the deputy minority leader, Emmanuel Amakusibua, stood up, literally saying that he was not going to allow the vetting to proceed if their concerns are not ironed out, because they insisted that the president ought to have followed a certain procedure before all these appointments could be made. This was something the majority would not budge. Initially, if you look at the numbers there, it was clear that the NDC were going to win. But up until some time, the majority got their 7 members for the committee to be present, except Joseph Osewusu, who we understand is indisposed for now, and then finally gave in for a vote to happen. And so when the vote did happen, it was a tie, 7-7. And if you look at the standing orders of the House, it says when there is a tie, the motion is lost. And since the motion had been moved by the minority, it had been lost, and ultimately it paved way for the vetting to start. So prior to that, there had been chaotic scenes, a lot of chaos at the appointment committee, where the minority said that the vetting was not going to happen until a vote had been taken on their preliminary objection.
So as we speak now, what's happening?
Well, the Justice Benasco has been answering questions on the judicial philosophy, on legal education. We believe that a lot more people need to be trained to become lawyers. It becomes such a big issue over the past few years in Ghana, the position of legal education, as to whether or not all these persons must be allowed to become lawyers. There are those who have taken the position that that should not be the case. There must be some real seeding to be done. And she's also answered questions about how she intends to inspire women as a woman rising to the highest court of the land, how that is going to be done. She's also answered questions on her TV. She's answered questions on the constitutional imperative that you must be a lawyer of 15 years standing before you can get into the court. So she's been answering all these questions. Leadership are now asking questions. It's Kwame Gavin-Abuja, who is now doing the questioning. The minority leader will also do the questioning. And then the next person, there are 2 nominees, and there's Justice Frimpong, who will also come in to answer questions. We do not know if, given the time, the committee will vet him also today, or they may ask him to come tomorrow. So that has been the lowdown here at the appointment committee today.
Interesting. Grateful to you. Kweku Asante there. He's been monitoring the situation, and he will be joining us again in subsequent bulletins with update from the appointment committee of Parliament. Now let's bring in a private legal practitioner, and who is also a former member of Parliament for the people of Gomoa West, to help us understand really what the real issues should be, because he is a lawyer and also a member of parliament. So from what is happening at the appointment committee, he probably has a lot of understanding there. Let's try and engage him. Alexander Kojo Kom Aban joins us now via Zoom. We're grateful to you, lawyer, for joining. So do you appreciate the difficulty of the minority with regards to these nominations to the Supreme Court? Lawyer, grateful for joining. I want to, can you unmute for me so I can hear you? Lawyer Alexander Kojokom Aban is a private legal practitioner and a former member of Parliament for the people of Gomwa West.
Can you hear me?
Good, I can hear you now, yes. So I wanted to understand whether you do appreciate the difficulties of the minority, because they are looking at the constitutionality of the nomination.
Thank you very much. Greetings to your cherished viewers. I think that if you're looking at it as a political matter, then you can appreciate where the minority is coming from. But if you're looking at it purely as a legal matter, I'm afraid to say that the minority may not have any serious case as far as these appointments are concerned.
Okay. Because
the process of appointment is clearly spelled out in the Constitution, and the person who has the power to do so. If you look at Article 144, Clause 2, it says that the other Supreme Court justices, that is apart from the Chief Justice, shall be appointed by the President, acting on the advice of the Judicial Council in consultation with the Council of State and with the approval of Parliament. So that is a process that is being churned out now. We can assume that the Judicial Council has submitted some names to the President. So they have advised the President, and on the basis of that advice, he in turn has nominated them, and it's for Parliament now to vet them to bring that whole process to an end. And of course, the final one would be the commissioning or the swearing in of those justices so nominated as Supreme Court justices. Then they would have been confirmed. If what I heard is anything to go by, the beef of the minority is that according to Article 296, which states that where in this Constitution or in any other law, discretionary power is vested in any person or authority, that discretionary power shall be deemed to imply a duty to be fair and candid. C is what is important. That's what they are talking about. Where the person or the authority is not a judge or other judicial officer, there shall be published by a constitutional instrument or statutory instrument regulations that are not inconsistent with the provisions of this Constitution or that other law to govern the exercise of the discretionary power. I beg to say that this paragraph C of Article 296 has no application whatsoever in the appointment process of Supreme Court justices, which is clearly spelled out in Article 144, Clause 2 of the Constitution.
Okay.
And I believe that my friends on the minority side are very much aware of the decision in NTHC versus Boyfield, which states clearly that where there is a specific law giving a certain process to be followed, that is what must be done. That's what must be followed. And so this one, the Constitution gives it clearly. I don't think that the exercise of discretionary power as given in Article 296, Clause C, is what we are talking about here. And so if, as a political matter, they think that the use of this power by the president can be abused by any president, then probably our course of action would be to find ways of amending the constitution. Because as it is now, I don't think that the president can come out with a constitutional instrument or any such subsidiary legislation to regulate his own appointment of Supreme Court justices. In the wisdom of the framers of the Constitution, they only gave the baseline without giving a ceiling.
A ceiling.
Yes. But I believe that it was done without, it was not done without reason. Because as we go along, the latitude for exercising the power to either increase the number or maintain it would be determined by the circumstances. Now, I said if you look at it as a political matter in the sense that there is reasonable assumption, and I think it is fair, that anybody would think that if any president is going to appoint some persons to the Supreme Court, he would be inclined to appoint those who think in line with him politically. It is in Ghana that we do not show political power, colors.
Okay.
But in the United States, almost every person in there, when you register even to vote, you are known, either you are a Republican or you are a Democrat. And so when Trump, for instance, is appointing people to the Supreme Court, obviously he would look for Republicans to be on the Supreme Court. In much the same way, if Biden is going to do so, he would look for Democrats to do that. In the case of Ghana, it appears that our constitution has been conditioned in such a way that everybody in the judiciary must play some kind of hypocrisy where they do not show their political lineage. And so that's why I'm saying that if you're looking at this as a political matter, they will think that, oh, the minority will think that, the president is likely to appoint people who are MPP oriented to the Supreme Court. And that's why they are complaining of the president packing the courts.
But isn't that enough a worry that, well, you are packing the Supreme Court with people who align with your party values, and that we should do something about it? Isn't that enough worry for them to protest against that?
That's what I'm saying, that as a matter of politics, it is something we cannot even do anything about. If we are talking about ceiling, and you have, let's say, 3 slots to be appointed there, it is reasonably, presumable that the president would look for people who, policy-wise, would think like him. It is a political matter. Now, that's why I said that as a legal matter, they do not have any legs to stand on, with all due respect to them.
Okay.
But you see, what is of even critical importance is this whole issue of packing the courts. Is it true? I do not think so, and I'm going to give you reasons why.
Unfortunately, lawyer's line has gone by there, but that was lawyer Alexander Kojokom Aban. He is a legal practitioner and a former member of parliament for the people of Gomoa West. Away from that, the NDC flag bearer John Mahama is urging Agriculture Minister Brian Achampon to focus on challenges in his sector instead of being obsessed with political power. The Abetifi MP is on record to have said last week that the MPP will use whichever means to win the 2024 elections, adding the party has pastors, imams and traditionalists within its ranks. Well, Brian Achampon is on record to have made similar comment in the past, speaking at a youth engagement at Bukom. John Mahama said the Agric Minister should rather focus on providing solutions to the problems in the sector, as he expressed concern over harsh climates affecting maize cultivation in parts of the country. There's more in his report.
The crowd at the Bukom Arena erupted with joy as the NDC flag bearer entered the venue. Earlier, the youth wing of the party had hosted him at the UPSA where he launched the Youth Manifesto. Key among the promises in the manifesto are free academic user fees for level 100 students in Ghana's universities, the extension of the free senior high school policy to cover private schools, and introduction of a 24-hour economy, which the NDC says will create jobs, and more jobs. It was a relaxed atmosphere at the Bukom Arena as young people took the microphones to ask the NDC flag bearer questions about his policies. Listen to his response in Pidgin when he was asked about the betting tax, the e-levy, and other taxes described by him as obnoxious.
The matter be street matter.
It be street matter. If you talk Pidgin.
Exactly, make it one Pidgin. So, my boys and girls on the streets, they are very happy. If only you assure us and promise us that you are going to abolish the 10% bear tax. We are voting for you, we are campaigning for you, and we vote for you. We will stay at the police station until the last ballot is counted. We are not leaving the police station.
Thank you. Thank you. This one be the yawa of the day. You see, boys they hustle, and job no day. So now the bet, they do small, get money for gobe. You see? So I understand. As no say this one, it be matter where they concern the youth, plenty. So we talk already. Say where we come. The betting tax will go remove them. But we're going to remove the betting tax. E-levy too, we're going to remove them. Thank you.
John Mahama reiterated his commitment to fighting corruption, saying future government appointees who are found culpable will be handed over to the special prosecutor.
And I have an example. Abuga Pele is my friend. The National Youth Authority, himself and others were prosecuted during my tenure. I was not happy to do it, but I mean, one has got to do what he's got to do. And so, yes, we'll pursue corrupt officials and we'll deal with them. And when we're dealing with them, if somebody does the same in our administration, that person will also be dealt with. So I've sounded a warning. Everybody who wants to be a minister, a CEO in John Mahaba's administration. If the Office of Special Prosecutor comes after you, you are on your own. I'm not a clearing agent. I will not clear you.
He says a future NDC government will ensure that the observance of the closed season is limited only to big trawlers.
So that more people will get the opportunity. That when we come, there will be no closed season for artisanal fishermen. Those who put more pressure on the sea are the trawlers and the big fishing vessels. How much fish do the artisanal fishermen catch? The majority of the fish is caught by big trawlers, many of them who even catch that fish and go and land the fish in other ports instead of bringing it for Ghanaians to be able to eat. So the closed season will be there for the big trawlers and the big fishers. But the artisanal fishers who go with their small canoe and their outboard motor and their net to go and catch nokofio, ni akebaba, ni akwe amehalfa, you go and onga shona maba. The small fishers, artisanal fishers, no closed season, will stop the trawlers from fishing within a certain nautical miles of the coast, and then also there will be closed season for them.
The NDC flag bearer John Mahama says the Minister for Agriculture, Brian Champon, should rather focus on how to develop the sector instead of his obsession with power.
We must also look at irrigation, where we have good facilities for producing irrigation facilities so that farmers can water their crops, that will be fine. Right now, as I speak, the whole of Bono through Savannah and northern region, there's a drought. For almost 8 weeks, it hasn't rained. And so the maize crop is dying. And I would have thought that that is what the agric minister will be concerned with. Instead, he's saying, we won't hand over power, we won't hand over power. The farmers in the north are calling you. Their maize is wilting because there's no rain. So you must start strategizing how we're going to get enough maize to feed our people in the lean season.
Well, the National Democratic Congress's promise to cover the academic fees for first-year students is drawing questions about its feasibility in Ghana's current economy. While the proposal aims to ease the financial burden on families and increase access to tertiary education, there are concerns about the sustainability and implementation of the policy. Here are some reactions from students at the University of Ghana.
That it is a very good thing from the NDC, most especially the presidential candidate for the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, for such an innovative idea. But I think that even though the policy is feasible, there are lots more that we can think about, just so to be able to make the policy more practical than it appears to be. I think that I'll talk from different angles. The fact that in terms of accessibility to the tertiary education will be very easy, because students who are unable to pay for the academic fees at the level 100 will be able to get themselves enrolled into our tertiary schools, and then the burden on their parents and even themselves to enroll themselves in tertiary schools will also be reduced. However, we should also take cognizance of the funding. I mean, stories on the media is telling us about the fact that the funding for this particular policy will be it wouldn't necessarily come from government, but a cut or whatever thing from somewhere. So we are interested in the government not burdening itself with paying school fees for over thousands of Ghanaian citizens or students who intend to enroll themselves in the tertiary schools.
I mean, it's a good policy being raised by the former president, John Dramani Mahama. And my concern is that while he seeks to bring something that will ease some form of burden on parents and students who even pay the fees themselves, I'm also taking it from this angle. What about the continuing students who are already in the system? It's something that is going to attract votes. These promises will definitely attract some votes. But I'm also thinking about, what about the continuing students who are already in the system? What will be their concerns? Are they not going to say it's a promise that is neglecting them, putting them at a certain angle, and neglecting them, focusing on students who are rather coming into the tertiary?
You see, given the experience with the free SHS, a free education for level 100 students is really going to be beneficial, but it would have many challenges. Looking at the importance parts, people from diverse backgrounds will be allowed to come into the university, especially like those who will not be able to pay for their fees, the poor people. And then it will motivate SHS students to pursue their education, even if they don't have. Me personally, when I completed SHS, I waited for a year before coming to school because of some financial problems. Yes. And then increasing in many people in the university, I don't know, it might reduce the quality of education. Just like free SHS, at the beginning it was helping, but it got to a time we had to do a green and then a gold track.
So you think this particular policy is gearing towards political exploitation and not a strategy to reform the educational system? What I would like to also add is that if you want to implement this particular policy, you have to ensure that there is equity and equality. But with this regard, we realize that this initiative or policy is only for public universities. And then what I would like to also add is that, the dealings of the tertiary educational system is very difficult. And what I would like to say is that this particular policy is going to stress the government finances, because it is not easy to take care of a lot of students who are running or who are being enrolled in the educational system of the tertiary education.
Well, let's head now to Kumasi. There are mixed reactions to the NDC's promise in making the first-year education in universities free for the new entrant. Some residents are optimistic the policy will alleviate financial burden on parents, but others believe these promises are only a charade for political gains as the December polls nears.
I actually think in a way it's going to help since people graduate with higher grades.
I think that it is a very good thing from the NDC, most especially the presidential candidate for the NDC, John Dramani Mahama, for such an innovative idea. But I think that even though the policy is feasible, there are a lot more that we can think about, just so to be able to make the policy more practical than it appears to be. I think that I'll talk from different angles. The fact that in terms of accessibility to the tertiary education will be very easy, because students who are unable to pay for the academic fees at the level 100 will be able to get themselves enrolled into our tertiary schools, and then the burden on their parents and even themselves to I
actually think in a way it's going to help since people graduate with higher grades, which actually fit to be in the universities, but due to lack of money from parents, they are unable to pursue their education at the university level. So I actually think it's going to help. And when you find your way at the university after first year, I think with that you are conversant with the institution, and there may be some family relations or some relatives may actually try to help out since they see you at the university.
The politicians like to talk, so I doubt you'll be able to deliver. Just like what Akufo-Addo did, he wants to do same, so we vote for him. I think this would help parents like myself. I have a child who can also benefit from the free SHS, which he is promising to extend to private schools.
Secondary free education, managing if you say, private school. Private school, promising them, but
it's good, but we don't like promise and fail. His promise to take away taxes on bets has already won our votes.
Bet tax the street bus require any vote crowd to be a trade. Announcement with. So promise with the boys who sit to say, yeah, how far say bet idea. Yamia do also 10%. Kakana as a buffer the to the because the Kawaleta Bosumska. And I'm a Bosumska, and I don't get an idea with the 10%. Then the Cardia, street boys in our wood dada, and I promise I'm going to a fair boot. Propaganda, so all the people to the boys betting.
He won't do anything.
Short memory. John Dramani Mahama can kind of find a short memory. You say tofu. I say can crack an head on say. Will be a address on memory. The end of Satom. Yes, and that's the way so. It's a win as to Obama.
Well, we've had the reactions across the country, but to help us delve deeper and understand this policy proposal, we are joined in studio by the NDC's National Deputy Youth Organizer, Osman Ayariga, and the Programs Manager at the Youth Bridge Foundation, Joyce Nyame. Lady and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thanks for joining.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Well, yes. So let me start with you, Joyce. I mean, you've had the promises there. You've had the NDC say they would want to do if they are elected, you know, into power. As a youth, how do you receive these promises?
Okay, so I'll first speak as a young person and also as someone leading programmatic interventions with a youth-focused organization. I think these policy frameworks are laudable. The fact that there is a thought for the need to even have a separate policy document on young people, that's a laudable intervention. And also the choice of timing, the day the policy was launched, that's also something thoughtful, International Youth Day, to think that the issue of young people are coming to the forefront, and then policymakers are trying to catch the vibe, so to say, to make sure that the things that we talk about are put into policy frameworks. That's very important.
Okay. Now, the NDC said on education, they will scrap academic fees for level 100 students through the No Fee Stress Initiative, provide sustainable dedicated funding for free SHS policy, to improve food quality for free SHS and expand access by building more infrastructure in already existing secondary schools, to complete the E-blocks that they started, to abolish the double track system, to construct hostels for students on tertiary campuses at affordable rates to address the accommodation challenge, to abolish teacher licensure exam, increase access to college education.
These are laudable. And then from the clips we had watched before this interview, these are some of the issues that people are talking about. So these are things that are happening. People are worried about education, the educational system, in terms of the content, in terms of the turnout, accommodation. People are moving from one community to the other to pursue academic excellence, and then there's the need for them to be fed. There's the need for accommodation. But for me as a young person and also someone with a youth-focused organization, what we want to say is there is a need for us to have an accompanied implementation plan. So this is the policy framework. The manifesto is a policy framework. There's a need for us to see, in terms of commitment, the implementation plan, as well as the finances that will come with the implementation plan.
Osman, so you've had young people there speaking about we want more, and even thinking that this is probably a charade. You want to help us understand. For example, if you say you want to provide sustainable dedicated funding for free SHS policy, what are you looking at?
Thank you very much. And I want to say good afternoon to you and good afternoon to my sister. And also wish all youth of this country who are living in a state of disappointment, in a state of hopelessness, happy belated International Youth Day. I would also want to say thank you to all the young people who followed keenly the NDC launch its manifesto as far as the youth is concerned, so the National Youth Manifesto, which is novel, which is the first of its kind in the history of this country. And to actually launch it on the International Youth Day means how well the NDC thinks of the youth of this country. And of course, to the flag bearer of the National Democratic Congress, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the incoming president of Ghana come 2025. Also want to say a big thank you to him for making time the whole of yesterday. You know, he has a very busy schedule with the campaigns, and he had to cut the campaign just to give us a whole day, 24 hours of his time to interact with the youth. The first was the campaign launch, the manifesto launch at the UPSA auditorium, which we launched this National Youth Manifesto. And the second program was also at the Bukom Boxing Arena, where he met about 5,000 young people from all sectors of life, from diverse backgrounds, from different businesses, different academic backgrounds. And they asked teaching questions that concern the youth and questions that actually affect their lives. And he stood on his feet for 3 hours. He answered
every
we all saw that, but I'm asking.
Every question. Yes. So I just need to.
Exactly. Because of time. So
yes, congratulate and thank all the people that came there. Now, if we go into the NDC's Youth Manifesto, there are a couple of things we decided to speak about. You and I understand and we appreciate the current difficulty that the current free SHS is being bedeviled with. And we've continuously had various debates and various discussions. And you remember His Excellency John Dramani Mahama has stated time without number that the first thing he has to do with the free SHS is to review it. And in reviewing it, what do? He needs to sit with stakeholders. He needs to sit with interest parties. He needs to sit with parents. He needs to even sit with students, teachers, and everyone within the educational sector. And we need to churn out how we all are going to make it better. There has been various proposals as to whether some should pay, some shouldn't pay, it should be optional. And he says that, hey, it's not for us to forcefully decide for you. But the most important thing is for us to have dedicated funding for this free SHS. It's not just, okay, for us, every year we are always looking for budgetary allocation, either from the left or the right, we're either looking at certain funds, etc., etc. Instead of that, we need to have a dedicated budgetary allocation for the free SHS, and that is how we should review. That's the first step in reviewing it.
But already there is a dedicated budget funding for the policy.
We have issues with it. We have issues with it, and that's
so how different are you going to do it?
You may have a budgetary allocation, but if it's not dedicated, then what it means that it's within the whims and caprices of the finance minister as and when he wants to release the funds. Remember, in not too distant past, the issues of caterers and food, and some of the foods were being colored with color, etc., etc. That's because you do not have a dedicated source of funding. It's as and when the finance minister wants to release funding, then he releases funding. And if funds are used for other things, then you realize that there's that short a chain so far as funding is concerned. So we're looking at a dedicated source of funding. Don't also forget that we started the e-block project. And we're telling you that we need to continue aggressively so far as the e-blocks are concerned, because free SHS also has a lot to do with access. And access also has a lot to do with rebuilding more community day schools. Remember, we started the fact that we needed to build more community day schools before we kickstart the free SHS aggressively. Otherwise, there was going to be a choke in the boarding sector. And that is exactly what we are experiencing. The lack of beds, like we are unable to feed students, etc., etc. So we need to go back to the drawing board and look at the access before we even go back again and look at how we're going to make the free SHS better. So we're going back to the access, and we started the e-blocks. So we are going to aggressively complete our 200 e-blocks, which is supposed to be the community day schools. Then we understand that beyond the free SHS, there's also the difficulty of students entering the university.
Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get there. But the reason why I'm interested in the dedicated source of funding for free SHS is because, you know, in the past, we've all had a discussion about whether parents should pay or not. So when we hear the NDC say we should have a dedicated funding, it's quite interesting. So what is that source of funding? That's what I want to understand.
No, for now, I cannot tell you that the source of funding is either going to be from GET Fund, or it's going to be from Consolidated Fund, or it's going to be from the Oil Fund, or extra, etc. But the most important thing is for you to believe that you need a dedicated source of funding. You need to understand that this is your policy direction. This is what you need to do. Now, when you get in there, then you now understand, based on the nooks and crannies, which of the funds you can purposely dedicate
but at least
to it.
For now,
which of the funds you can purposely dedicate to it. As it stands now, even GET Fund has been collateralized. Most of the funds have been collateralized. And this is where we are as a country. You get a point. So it would not be in the best place for us to say that we're going to, and as part of even our manifesto, we told that we are trying as much as possible to decollateralize the GET Fund, to restore it to its original mandate.
Exactly. That's why I wanted to, I'm trying to find out from you.
So we need
because
to
collateralize
it.
By now,
yes.
by now,
for us to be able to even get dedicated source of funding, we need to also decollateralize GET Fund. Which
you've made that point.
All our funds have been collateralized.
You've made that point. But
all our funds have been collateralized.
We know that we have the annual budget funding amount.
Yes.
We know that at least we have royalties coming from the mining companies.
Yes.
Or mineral exploitation. You've mentioned the decollateralization of the GET Fund. That's why I want to ask. I mean, I'm sure you are part of this process to arrive at this conclusion. Yes. So when you were talking about dedicated source of funding,
when you talk about dedicated source of funding, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's coming from one pocket.
Okay.
It could come from a pool. that you know that you are dedicating these percentages to them. But the most important thing is for you to agree that you're going to have a dedicated source of funding. You get a point?
So you tell us when you get to that government.
You don't need to say that we are going to pick only from Get Fund. No. You don't need to tell that you're going to pick only from ESLA. No. But the most important thing is for you to agree, based on your policy direction, that you all need a dedicated source of funding, and that will solve more than 80% of the problem so far as free SHS is concerned, before we go into the quality, before we go into access, before we go into the issues of accommodation, etc., etc. Okay. So if we're able to decollateralize most of these funds, we'll have the free space to operate. Now, the next issue has to do with the issue of the free level 100 academic fees. Some schools call it level 100, some schools call it first year. Some schools call it, first year level 100.
We use it interchangeably.
Interchangeably, so that
100 student or
level 100 or a first year student. We understand the difficulty most students go through, and even parents. Most students gain admission into schools. They're unable to meet the admission payment deadline. And for that matter, most of them forfeit their admissions. And this time around, John Dramani Mahama and the NDC is saying that, okay, in order to enable students to alleviate people from most of this stress and this poverty, government is seeking to absorb the first year's admission fees so that you do not forfeit your admission due to the fact that you're unable to pay your fees. And we've done the computation. However, as a continuing student, then you'll be eligible for the Student Loan Trust Fund Plus. Then you can continue as a student as far as the Student Loan Trust Fund Plus is concerned. Because sometimes, before you gain admission, you cannot actually apply for the Student Loan Trust Fund. You need to be a student. That's what the eligibility criteria. So we need to do that before you can access the Student Loan Trust Fund. So we're saying that we will enable you, will help you through this policy so that you can gain admission to university. So you shouldn't be left out because of your inability to afford admission fees. You should go in there. If you are unable to gain admission, then it should be other criteria or other requirements, such as maybe your grades, etc., etc. People have asked, how are you, how much do you know the costing, etc., etc. And we have said that, yes, unlike our colleagues in the MPP who have been asked several times about the costing, etc., and they've told us that, I remember the last time Nanado was asked about the costing of free SHS, he told the journalist that he'll come and tell with the Ghanaian people. He came to Ghana, we asked him, he never told us, and to date he hasn't told us. But we have told that we know the cost, we have done the mathematics, and we know where we can cut in order to cushion or fund it. We've told you that. The cost involved for financing annually the first year, so far as academic fees is concerned, will sum up to about 275 million Ghana cedis. And we're telling you that as government machinery, this year alone, government machinery is spending 2 billion Ghana cedis. And we're telling you that as a government, we are not going to spend 2 billion Ghana cedis on government machinery. Cutting that government machinery expenditure, even by 25%, we'll be able to fund this policy we are looking at.
So is that how you're going to fund it?
Yes, that is what we are seeking to do. That government machinery, and John Dramani Mahama has said time without number, that we are going to run the leanest government, we're going to cut profligate expenditure, we are going to be frugal, we are going to try as much as possible to reduce any excessive spending.
So if I understand if I understand you, you're going to cut down on government spending and then you redirect it into the.
Yes,
but I heard you.
Classical example.
But I also heard the explanation that the source of funding for that particular policy will be coming out of the GET Fund when you decollateralize it.
Yeah, those are other sources. I haven't heard people say GET Fund. But as part of GET Fund is also in charge of funding education. And that's why we're also looking at decollateralizing it. But we are also giving you a classical example of places where we can cut. And that has to do with government expenditure. We've told you time without number that the 2 billion Ghana cedis that is being used this year as government expenditure, even if we reduce it by 25%, it should be able to cater.
Well, I want to be able to hold you to account when you come to power.
Yes.
That's why I want you to explicitly tell me where the source of funding is going to come from. You are saying that it will come from the cut in government expenditure on the executive.
Yes.
That's the money you're going to redirect into taking care of the first years.
It can be
That's it. That's what your party has decided.
It can be used.
No, I'm not looking for can.
It can be used.
What you've decided to do.
It can be used. What I'm trying to tell you is that it can be used. That money, the cut in government expenditure can be used to fund it.
No.
However, no, I'm coming. Don't forget that as it stands now, Get Fund has already been collateralized.
Yeah, I get it.
And we are in a very tight corner. So there's an available option, which is that government has decided that we can reduce government spending and use it to fund the education so far as
when you were going through.
However, we are looking at decollateralizing Get Fund. And don't forget, Get Fund's original mandate is to fund education. So if in the long run we are able to decollateralize Get Fund, and Get Fund can be used to also fund it, that is fair enough. But even in the absence of Get Fund, where it has been collateralized, government machinery spending, which is currently at 2 billion Ghana cedis, would and can be used to fund the free first year.
So if I get you, there are two funding sources you're looking at: cutting down in government expenditure and to redirect it, and or using Get Fund to fund the
No, Get Fund ideally is for funding tertiary education.
I get it, yes.
That we need to understand, simplicity. However, we are telling you that so far as this policy is concerned, one of the places we can look at is to cut government spending. We are not planning on spending 2 billion Ghana cedis on government machinery. No. We are cutting government spending, and part of it can be used to fund the 275 million Ghana cedis we're looking at, so far as the free first year education is concerned.
You know, when you tell me can, it can mean that, well, I can do it or I cannot do it. But if you use shall, then I'll sit here, cut this tape of yours, and play it back to you and say, you said you shall use the same.
You see, the underlying or basic principle is that it must be funded.
Okay.
So if I tell you it shall be used, and tomorrow we don't use government machinery, but government machinery spending has been reduced, and we go and use maybe another source, then you say that even though it's being funded, I lie to you. That it can be used.
Okay.
So don't.
Let me come to the youth bridge person. Satisfied with his responses, the explanation he's giving you?
So the struggle with the choice of words underlines my initial statements about the need for an implementation plan. So I feel all these things would come and will be explicit in a plan like that, where the party will be forced to really put into clear terms how they are going to fund it. So as you are saying, we can hold them accountable to it. So as much as we are lauding the initiative, I mean, these conversations are also bringing to the fore the need for another broader and very significant conversation as to how we are going to do it.
We are going to do it, okay. Osman is still here. He's helping us appreciate what the NDC wants to do when it wins power. Osman, let's still go through the other things you want to do. You've spoken about the e-blocks. You've also okay, you haven't spoken about it, but I guess that's what you want to do. Abolish the double track system because of the e-blocks, right?
Yes.
Is that what you do?
Yes. Yes.
Because you complete a lot of them.
Yeah, this is not the first time we are abolishing double track system. I think we started abolishing the shift system, the days, I think morning and afternoon school, the CITO system. I remember we started abolishing all schools under trees under the NDC. We constructed, I think, over 1,006 classroom blocks to eradicate schools under trees. So we have a track record. Okay. We have a track record of abolishing shift system. We abolished the shift system with the basic school, and now the shift system has shifted to the secondary school. And I tell you that we are the masters of abolishing shift system. And the same formula, the fact that we were able to dedicate resources to building 6 classroom blocks to be able to eradicate the shift system in the basic level. Okay. You should trust us again. We are the same people that started construction of the e-blocks. Trust us. Yes, we plan on building 204 years. No, that was the first 4 years of John Dramani Mahama. We started about 125. I think those that were completed about 40-something. The figure keeps, everybody keeps giving a different figure. But a good number was completed. Around 42 or 43 were completed.
I think
but some argue that we said 42, it wasn't completed, but we know we completed about 42. About 90-something of them, about 105 of them have still not been completed by this government. I remember the last time a chief complained, the president told him to go and complete it himself. We all understand some of these problems. We are the people who are used to building these projects that would bring people out of poverty, this project that will eradicate the shift system. So it is something we have done before. We will continue to do it, and we shall do it again. We will construct more e-blocks. And trust me, if the 200 e-blocks, when completed, will not be enough, we will continue to construct more because development is continuous.
Why not expand infrastructure in the existing schools, but want to build different schools?
You remember we brought up the policy that we should have more community day schools due to the proximity to the villages. Because you see, when students go to the boarding house, it is more expensive because some need to travel a long distance. Some need to go to the boarding school. You need to buy mattresses, you need to buy etc., etc. And that was the thinking behind the community day schools. So that if I live in Adenta, I don't have to travel all the way to Takrady to access secondary education. If I live in Adenta and there's a community day SHS there, I just walk home, I walk to school, etc. So that's why we're looking at developing more community.
All right. Let me take you through. You want to construct hostels for students on tertiary campuses. Someone says, we all know how the economy is struggling to recover, right? Why don't you create the enabling environment for private people to invest in that area, but you want government to concern itself with hostels when private persons can do it?
No, we put it out there, carry out an aggressive bed for all program with the private sector to build accommodation facilities on tertiary campuses to provide bed spaces for students and arrest.
So it is not government constructing hostels?
We aggressively engage in private sector.
Okay.
Because most of the universities have the land, and most private people want to come in there and invest so far as the hostel business is concerned. But the universities are very jealous about protecting their land, which is understandable, because they believe that maybe after a while the private person will take their land, etc. They don't want to reduce.
So what do you intend to do?
So that's why government needs to step in to give them that security. In other jurisdictions, what happens is that government steps in sometimes as a guarantor. That you build your hostel, you run your hostel for a number of years. After that, it's given to it's reverted to the university. So it becomes the property of the university. In other jurisdictions, that is what is being done. So this is
what would be your formula? You've given us other jurisdictions. What is the plan? What do you intend to do?
Yeah, we're looking at bed for all. So we are looking at we are looking at engaging the private sector. Now you see when you are engaged. I'm coming.
Hold on. You've mentioned that one, but you brought in something.
You see, yes,
you brought in something. I gave the universities are jealous of their land. So what do you want to do?
I gave you one scenario. I gave you one scenario in other jurisdictions. What is being done and how most universities feel that.
No, so what do you want to do?
Let me land. Please, I beg your pardon.
We don't have all the time. What do you want to do?
I agree with you. I'm coming to what we're going to do.
So come to it. What do you want? Because you've explained that one. What do you want to do?
What we're going to do is to engage private entities. And those private entities are expected to come and build the hostels, run it for some time, make their money, then it's given back to the investor. Because you see, there's a number of years which you can run it and recoup your investment. Because it's about you putting...
So it's a build, operate, and transfer?
Yes.
BOT?
Yes.
Is that what you plan to do?
That's what we plan to do. So it's not as if it's going to be a private hostel forever and ever. No, it's supposed to later be the property of the investor. So if it's a 10-year, 20-year, 50-year, at the long run, it becomes part of the investor. That's what we are seeking to do with private entities.
Okay, I'm grateful to you for joining. But my last question to you: with these e-blocks, you have 4 years. Which year would you complete these blocks for students to have access to them?
We have 4 years.
Yeah.
Like we started during our tenure. Within the first year, I think we started about 20. The next year, we started about 30. It's supposed to be in phases. And remember, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama said that it's not just for the e-blocks, but all uncompleted projects started by previous governments. There's going to be some attention given to it.
Because you say you want to increase access to the free education.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Which year do you want to complete the remaining day schools so that people can have access to them? Because you want to...
Well, the next NDC government, when elected into power, we have 4 years to implement everything we put in our manifesto. So within the 4 years, we should be able to implement everything. We don't have anything beyond 4 years. Beyond 4 years, we are going back to seek the mandate of the people. So within 4 years, we should be able to implement everything in our manifesto. And I assure you, I guarantee you that in the NDC's manifesto, in the youth manifesto, in the main manifesto, within 4 years of the tenure of John Dramani Mahama, we are going to implement everything in it.
All right. Osman Ayarga is Deputy National Youth Organizer of the NDC. Thank you for coming. Just before you leave, you listened to him. You've not listened to the MPP. But what message is the youth sending to these political parties ahead of 2024?
So the message is simple. First of all, we would like to tell the young people that we should celebrate because there is the agency that these policymakers are realizing that they need to focus on us. So NDC has come out. We are looking out for the other political parties. So we are watching closely. But we also urge the political parties that it's urgent, that there is a need for conscious effort to address the developmental needs of the young people. Okay. So we are watching closely, and then we applaud the NDC, and then we are also urging others to also come. Then we have variety, then we have informed decisions during the elections.
All right, Joyce, I'm grateful. Joyce Nyame, Programs Manager for Youth Bridge Foundation. They sponsor our election headquarters. We'll take a quick break here. On the pulse, we'll be back with more. Please do stay. Welcome back. The next conversation will excite you, and I'm sure about it, because now Ghana will begin refining gold locally following the inauguration of Royal Gold Ghana Limited. It was done by the Vice President last week to ensure that Ghana now refines its own gold. Now, according to information available, Ghana has secured the partnership with a foreign entity. Now, we understand that that particular thing should be of good news to you, right? But it is now a source of growing concern for some industry watchers. Former AGI President Dr. Prince Kofi Klucheson and President of the Africa Development Council have both questioned the equity share between the state and the private investor, who we understand holds a chunk of the percentage of the shares. Now, in the new partnership, Ghana will retain just 20% share of the deal, while an Indian firm holds 80% share. We'll hear from them shortly, but as they join us for a conversation on this. Right now, though, listen to Imani Africa Vice President Bright Simmons, who has questioned why government would launch a gold refinery with much fanfare when it's struggling to secure gold for refining.
Because if you have so many refineries in Ghana, why select this specific one, which is not even the biggest or the most sophisticated in Ghana? Why will you? So that got us digging. What is about this refinery that is unique? And then we learned that the Bank of Ghana is going to shift the gold purchasing program to this. So that's a huge advantage to be given to a brand new refinery with no track record, when there are others that have been trying to make this work in this country for a while. Digging further, we then realized that the company they say is coming to partner PMC, or at this stage, the Bank of Ghana, to do this refinery work, does not have the capacity at all. It's a quarry. They run some quarries in Ahmedabad and Gujarat and a few states in India. It's a pretty small company that runs quarries. They quarry stone, and the stone is sold to tar producers. Why would they be interested at all in a refinery? Then we find out that they also don't actually have any personnel at the Royal Ghana Gold Refinery, and obviously they wouldn't have it because that's not their expertise. Who actually has that? It turns out it's a small consultancy, it's a boutique management consultancy in India, based in New Delhi, called Rare Tech. So this is basically a one-man shop. It's by a guy called Sandeep Chadha and his relative. Now, Sandeep Chadha is the technical person that is actually doing this, but he has nothing to do with Rosie, the company that is said to be, funding this, is supposed to be patronizing the government. That raised a lot of fascinating issues. So you have some independent consultants running this. You have, and as you know, PMC is chaired by the Eastern Regional Chairman or former Eastern Regional Chairman of the ruling party, and he chairs this new joint venture. So that all of that raises your antenna. So we say, okay, let us find a lot more about Rosie. So we commissioned an inquiry, and here I'm talking about Imani, and we've got a huge amount of information now about this company. One, apart from what is publicly known, which is that it's a quarry and not a gold, not even a gold mining company, not talking about a gold refinery operating company. It's also actually a company that's really struggling financially. And given that all our refineries are struggling financially in Ghana, all the big ones at least, the smaller ones are doing well, the big ones are all struggling. Why do we need another financially struggling company? So to give you an example, its last financial statements, audited financial statement, the company made $3,000 in revenue, and it made $250,000 in losses. Why would such a company want to invest $20 million? Now wait for the banger, wait for the frightening aspect of it. We examined the company's book in great detail. The company has never made any investment overseas worth any amount to be interested. And because, as you know, you cannot lie to your auditors if you are investing money overseas. either in a joint venture, a subsidiary, or some other form, you have to tell your auditors in your auditor statements. And it has to come either in the form of a shareholder loan or capital investment, a private placement. You have to record it. We searched everywhere, all the audited books for the last 6 years, during which period this refinery has been under construction. But this refinery started construction in 2018, right? So during that period, if this company had made any investment in this local refinery, it would be in its books. It's not. So we are really confident at this stage to say that Rosie Royal is not the investor.
Well, joining us now is Engineer Dr. Achu Sogbe, who is President of the Africa Development Council, Dr. Prince Kofi Klucheson, who is Consultant to Africa Development Council, also former President of the Association of Ghana Industries. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining.
Thank you. Thank you.
Doc, let me start with you, Dr. Klucheson. Why should we be worried if government says, I want to go into refining gold, but I want a foreign partner to help me do this because I don't have the resources?
The first question is, why should we not be worried? You know, why should not be worried? The goal is not for government, it's for Ghanaians, it's for citizens, it's for areas. So government woke up one morning and said that I am partnering with a foreign private partner, you know, not even a local, you know, private business person. And these are the terms and conditions without even disclosing or exposing, you know, the reason for that or the deal. We have every right to be worried as Ghanaians because the goal is ours.
Yeah.
The final product is for the market. The revenue comes to us first, and then somebody takes the other one. So every reason to be worried.
Yeah. But I mean, is that the reason why you're worried about this partnership?
Everybody must be worried, including you, because it's not a good partnership. You know.
Why is it not?
Government business is not to do business. Government business support the private sector and the citizens to do business. And the government collect their taxes, you know, and then create the value, you know, for the country. You see, when you look at the history of Ghana from Ashanti Goldfields today, the story will tell you, similar thing happens for Ashanti Goldfields. When traders from Solpon were trading and in gold, and then the buyer, they realized that there's opportunity. So he came here, you know, with 250 pounds, you know, and then went to see where they were doing it. And then the rest is history. You see, Ghana is not poor. Ghana has a lot of knowledge, especially the government. You see, when you look, when you take the veil off and look at this government, there are a lot of knowledge, there are a lot of good lawyers, a lot of economists, or whatever. Sometimes when this happens like this, it's far-fetched to believe that it's happening. And if we do not do something about it right now, the future generation will suffer for it. You see, in the whole world, in business, the maximum shareholding is 100%. You know, and as per our company's code, if you leave the veil, you realize the reason why we must not do what we have done. Because in Ghana, our shares by the law is of no par value. You know, so it can be 20%, whatever, it have no value. That's per the company's code. Now, another thing the company's code requires that if you do not have at least about 25%, 20%, the majority takes you as nobody. You know, it's negligible.
Which means that in the current arrangement, which is 80-20, the majority takes
They can override you, they can overrule you, they can kick you out, they can do anything by our laws.
Okay.
You see, so business is not about the product, it's about the laws that governs in the business. You know, there must be shareholders, there must be directors, so and so. And then there must be a disclosure of a deal because the thing belongs to the state. Where the so-called partners are coming from, what are the laws there? Can the same law exist in their country where, you know, the Ghanaian partner have 80% and then they will have 20%? The answer is no. It never happens anywhere. So there must be a minimum sovereign equity for Ghana.
Yes.
You know, when I was AGI president, we pushed, you know, that at least there must be a minimum of 30% equity for Ghanaian. You know, but at least a minimum. Is you know, so that we go on from the first step we got was what we call local content laws. What they do, Talo and others, they will start bringing Ghanaians abroad, hiring them, bringing them here to qualify for the local content law, and eventually it vamooses and it's a control. You see, if you look at the background for all these companies in Ghana, how they came here, it will amaze you. Those that are in business, you know their backgrounds. You see, none of them, for as long as I've been in business in Ghana, I've not seen any business that comes to Ghana with a huge capital, you know, and then get some. Sometimes it's a $1 company, you know, from the offshore.
Okay.
It's a capital, you know, the capitalization is an offshore for $1. If you go to the bank or they will tell you bring 3 years account or whatever it is before they'll grant you access. But they take our sovereign, paper, we got sovereign money from Parliament. Why do they need to get a parliamentary approval before they go to business? This deal, who really funded? Is it Bank of Ghana? Why should Bank of Ghana, with all the money that we have, does not control 80%, and then the foreigner control 20%? You're a young man, think through it. So who is the equity holder? Is it the Bank of Ghana? We are the Mineral Fund, who are putting $5 million in lithium and other things.
Yeah.
And then
the
$5
Minerals
million
Income Investment Fund.
Yeah, so why are we here? 3-4 months to election. I don't think it's a good deal, and we need to look at it. But you see, and then the glamorous way they do it, affects because people like me, we suffer through these kind of issues. We don't want to go back. But I think that the right thing might be done for the current and the next generation.
Engineer Dr. Sogbe, Dr. Klugerson obviously is questioning why we are not controlling, why government would bring in a foreign partner. But do we have local companies with the capacity to do this?
Thank you very much. So before I delve into issues like this, the general leadership crisis across the continent is due to, lack of industrial, drive that can absorb the youth, right? So state-led industrialization is the key to stopping all these crises, the one happening in Kenya, now Nigeria, because of lack of state-led industrialization.
Explain that bit.
Good. If I say state-led, for example, typical example is this oil refinery. The state has every capacity to say, come on, let's establish an oil. Typical example.
So this is a gold refinery.
This gold refinery. Typical example is the Ghana gas. During the Atamel's regime or NDC, during that regime, what happened is they went in for loan, $1 billion, invested in, instead of flaring the gas, they want to channel it into business. So 100% state-owned. Before maybe at the moment, I don't know if they float shares. That's how we do it, state-led. The state, first of all, invest in it, float shares. But here, at the moment, we are having 80-20% in favor of foreigner. What that means is that every business done here is changed into that ratio, condemning the local currency, capital flight. And we will go around borrowing to augment and saying we are having foreign reserve within. Meanwhile, we have the opportunity to hold 80-20 in favor of the state.
Do we have companies who are into refinery in Ghana who could have done this?
So what happened is that, for instance, I still keep referring to the Ghana gas. Ghana gas, we just started. From the ground, the president said, you see, the main reason that our constitution gives so much power to the presidency is just because the president can sit down and say, look, coming to my University of Science and Technology, get us engineers. Whichever institution, let's go into this. The Constitution has empowered the president to do that. So establishing a gold refinery is nothing but, you mentioned whether we have the capacity. Yes, we, the Africa Development Council, we are a group of consortium made up of, from experts from archaeology to geology. We have the engineers, we have all it takes to help any government across the continent to go into any hardcore industrialization agenda. So we have the men, it is up to the presidency to champion and command, and it is there. So we are appealing to authorities that the 80-20 in favor of foreign partner is against Ghana's progress. It should rather be 80-20 in favor of the state. Anything other than that, we are going to resort to taxation. And you know what taxation goes, our former president, the late Nkrumah, he said what? Development must be financed more and more from production or productivity and less from taxation dues that may bring burdens on people within communities that will not be able to afford. So where do we go taxing, watches sellers when we have the opportunity to hold 80% share in our gold refinery?
But Dr. Klugerson, I don't know if I got you right, but I heard you mention that what is government's business in doing business, right?
Yes.
So why would government have to worry itself with controlling 80% of it if the government has no business, no business in doing
Government
business?
business to empower. See, anytime I come to this studio, I'm very excited. You know why? The owner of this studio, you know, is an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Anytime I come, all of you have various talents. So the question you ask first, whether we have the qualification, the answer is yes. I just came here from, you know, speaking to Accra Technical University, 70th anniversary for the British Council Hall. If you see the knowledge base that is there, you know, you'll be amazed, you know, about, I told them I was coming to this gold thing. You see, look, let us allow, look, when you get Chinese contractors, look at them on the street. The supervisors wearing cap is the Ghanaian, they are concerned with the bridge, they're the one concerned with the road and everything. But the power of the person there, from the whoever owns the company, who is being paid. You see, look, if you do not continue to challenge you, the young people, who were young when all this happened, your boss was young when this will happen. Who thought this would happen? It was only frequency.
Yeah.
But look at what has happened to today. You know, I had Celtel, look at what happened today. You see, so if we do not continue to do this thing, Ghana will continue winning. Look, if you look at those who launched this product, look at their background. Are you telling me that they are not visionary to start the gold refinery, go to Dubai, employ people and pay them? Of course they have. If you go to Dubai, the biggest gold souk in the whole world is in Dubai. But they don't produce gold. You understand? So let us start challenging us. Government, give us support, you know, and challenging it, and let us do it. It's, look, there are 3 million, almost 3 million university kids today. 3 million. KNUST, University of this, so many of them. Hey, look, what are they studying for? You see, this gold thing and all of that, they do mining engineering in Takwa. Yeah. You know, so if they empower you, you know, you cannot go to Takwa and tell them to partner with you to refine gold. Of course, you can do it. Just like Bryce Moore is saying, others are doing it. We need to stop it. Those of us who are friends in government, you see, we're not doing politics. They should know that they've been to school to make sure that Ghana benefits. And I remember for the future.
Yeah.
You see, these deals must, I mean, if you look at the lithium deal, you know the reason I'm here, but two brothers, you know, which is the NPP majority, NDC minority, they're from the same state of Central Region. But look at what is being done. You see, so we need to make sure that equity comes to Ghana, you know, and then, you see, if you don't bring equity today, look, it's not only this one, all the states, you know, NPC, oil, if we change the scenario, look, Cyril Ramaphosa, the current president of South Africa, they went to Singapore and Malaysia, and they've learned they create what they call the black empowerment. So every black person must have 30% equity. And today they own most of the companies, you know, in South Africa.
Okay. All right. Doc, I'm grateful. I mean, I'm enjoying the discussion, but I have to move on and take you to the Nat Hall because we're having a WASH, forum where we are talking about, you know, how the climate change is affecting this country and what you and I need to do. But I mean, just before I take you there, let me still come in studio and wrap this up because this is quite interesting. Doc, so should the issue be about whether me, Kojo Brace, I have the financial wherewithal or I do not, but because I'm a Ghanaian and probably if you give me something I would want to do it, I should be considered to do this?
You see, it is not about you.
Okay.
It's not about me. Ghana government, maybe the next parliament, they should enact a law to say that the Ghanaian has a right to sovereign equity of minimum 35%.
Okay.
You know, it's not about gold or diamonds or whatever. And all those who are operating today, come next year, government will renegotiate and bring the equity up and that will solve the problem.
All right. Doc, I'm grateful to you for joining. But I hope that we expand this conversation. Let me take you to the Nat Hall now, where Joy News is having its WASH forum. Enjoy this one.
Progress, meeting the MDG goals. But what was lacking significantly was the sanitation component.